The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Shadows and Stardust podcast. I am your host, Andrea Jane, and tonight we have a very special guest. With us is Mike Stevens of Granite Sky Services. Hello, how are you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is going to be a very exciting podcast. I'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Yeah, so the introduction is probably going to lead to a zillion more questions, but I guess that's kind of why I'm here. So what I do is I'm the founder of Granite Sky Services, which is a support group for anybody who's had a UFO or experience type encounter, from abductions just to somebody seeing something in the sky that changed their worldview. Why I do it is because I'm a lifelong experiencer. My first time remembering something like this, I was like 3.5 years old, and it's been ongoing. So the combination of those two events, I kind of grew up with this stuff by myself, nobody to talk to. Once I got to a certain age, kind of came to terms with it on my own and realized there were other people out there with nobody to talk to, and just wanted to put out something where people felt safe and had somebody else to talk to.
That's amazing and quite interesting. You said you were 3, and when you experienced your first, what happened, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so I was about 3.5 years old. It's hard to tell exactly. You don't really keep track of age at that age. But we're at my grandmother's house in Southampton, New Hampshire, and there was some type of family function going on because there were aunts, uncles, cousins, that type of thing. But I don't remember it being a holiday. It wasn't like a Christmas something. It was just maybe somebody's birthday in the family, but everybody was there. And the way my grandmother's house was set up, you'd walk in through the kitchen, and then there was a dining room open right to it. And off the dining room with a 3-season porch that overlooked the backyard. It's kind of, it was more popular then, but like that's where like people would go out to smoke and do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I walked by the dining room past this 3-season porch, and I got this immediate internal calling to go outside, that I had to be outside. Like, I don't know why. Like, I can't really explain it. It was like an emergency feeling. You got to get outside. I don't remember how I got outside, but when I got outside, I found my cousin standing in the driveway, and she's only like 6 months older than me. So we're both like, 3.5, 4 years old, still both young kids.
Toddlers.
Yeah. And the way we're raised, the chance of one of us making it outside is, that's unheard of. The fact that 2 of us made it outside is just like mind boggling. But anyways, we find ourselves outside, just standing there looking at each other like, what the hell are we doing outside? And we noticed that so my grandma's got a little lawn and then goes to the tree line, and it was all woods behind it, and the woods start glowing red, and all you can see is like the blackened shadows of the tree trunks, and this red light just kind of slowly goes from the ground up to the top of the trees. And once it breaks the tree line, we can see this object. It's your classic saucer-shaped object, which I know sounds cheesy to say because so many people have said it, but that's what it was. Like this little domed thing at the bottom, domed thing at the top. And it was just kind of rose above this tree line, and it drifted over to us, almost like, but you didn't hear engines or anything. It was almost like somebody threw a paper plane, and it just kind of like floated towards us. And at the end of my grandmother's driveway, there was this big tree, and it kind of like stopped next to the side of it, but like not on the ground, in the air still. And it sat there, and we noticed that it had like this row of lights around the center of it, and they were like soft whites, soft blues, but they weren't like individual light bulbs. It kind of like rolled more like fluidly, and it was doing that for a little bit. And the more it sat there, the more we felt watched. And all of a sudden, the light bar changed. It went to like oranges and reds and started flashing faster. And when that happened, almost like when you open your car door at night or something, some type of soft yellow light came on in the interior of this thing, and it revealed a row of windows above that center bar of lights. And we could make out like shoulders and heads of humanoid figures, but we couldn't see any details. After that, I had a big blank in my memory, and the next thing I remember is this object at the other side of the driveway, up by the road. It kind of hovered there above the telephone pole for a minute, sat there, and then just shot off and shrunk into nothingness.
Okay, we're about to have a Men in Black podcast. That's what's going on here right now. How does that... See, wow. All right. So you're on the seacoast, first of all, right? So the seacoast in New Hampshire?
Yeah. So my grandmother's house, Southampton, a small little town nobody knows about.
Do you recall the direction?
Yeah, the next biggest town next to it is Amesbury, Massachusetts, like that border right there.
Yeah. Well, did you recall like the direction? It was like, did it come from like the Atlantic? Do you remember? Can you recall that?
I'd have to look at a map.
I'm just curious.
The Powwow River used to run out back, so it came out from the Powwow side of it versus whatever that main road is there, 27 or 26.
Unbelievable. So what was the size? If you said it, I'm sorry if I missed it.
No. It was probably about 40 feet by 40 feet.
That's crazy.
Maybe it was a little wider, but yeah, from top to bottom was probably 40 feet, and then about the same on the outer side, just not as dome, but maybe that was a little longer.
So they showed up to see you two. Apparently, that was clearly, you were spotted.
Yeah. Well, we were called out, apparently.
Yeah.
I did hypnosis for a lot of years later. I was working with a paranormal group, and we're all doing, we got hooked up with this hypnosis, and we're going to do past life stuff. And everybody else is doing past life stuff. And they sat me in the chair, and they're like, nope, you're figuring out this. And I'm like, well, thanks for the warning, but yeah. So I was still, he was not like an abduction specialist. He had never done an abduction type case, so he was just excited about it too. He was more of a sensational guy, like stop smoking, stop, eating fast type guy. So he wasn't quite like the right guy. So he didn't get me quite to the right level to get over all the fear, but
right. I was gonna. That must have messed you up. Like,
yeah,
very young.
It introduced some new fear, but it did give some clarity. But like, yeah, what you're saying, part of that, what came out was, even though that's the first time I remember when we did the hypnosis, there was a familiarity, like, oh, this was not the first time. And there's some actual other instances in my life that it tends to leave you towards the belief that this has been happening to me since infancy.
Now, do you think there's a reason that certain people are singled out?
I believe it runs in families, but the reason those families are chosen, I don't have a good answer for, or don't have a reasoning, but it does tend to run in families. Most of my family has seen UFO or had some type of encounter. I didn't know most of this for most of my life, because we grew up one of those families. Like my grandfather's house was haunted. We always thought it was my great grandmother, his mother, who used to live upstairs, and like ghosts were. You could talk about them at the dinner table. It wasn't a taboo subject, but nobody talked about UFOs.
Yeah.
And then once I decided to get comfortable with it and I was going to start talking on my own and doing stuff, I spearheaded the historical marker in New Hampshire for Betty and Barney Hill. And then I got their niece involved, who's a great researcher of her own, Kathleen Martin. You know, she helped me like prove the details and stuff. And the state of New Hampshire, like, we can't say there was an abduction, but we can say this was culturally important enough to put up a marker.
Right.
So when that news went around the family, that's when it was like, oh, did you know about this? Did you know about that? Like, apparently, my great uncle was kicked out of Brewster Academy, which is like a private school in Wolfboro during the 60s for claiming he was abducted by aliens. The school said it was either drugs or mental illness. Either way, they weren't equipped to see it. My parents have seen stuff. My kids have seen stuff. You know, various, you know, not young anymore, not that I'm a player, but, you know, various girlfriends, wives, whatever, over the years, you know, have all, you know, seen stuff with me and got marks. And it definitely follows me, but I think it follows our family. I think it, not just ours, but like others as well. It follows families.
Well, that's a big obstacle. So there's a couple of things that you just brought up that I wanted to touch on briefly. That's something that's pretty common, even with just the paranormal, which is, I mean, when we're talking about ghosts and paranormal, it's kind of more of a common occurrence where, religion can come into play, and really, like, everybody really does have experiences with the paranormal, and then we get to, the paranormal on our human level. We're paranormal, right? And when people come to the realization of that fact, the paranormal doesn't turn into much of a taboo or you having a mental illness target. But I feel like that's definitely something that could be into play, and I have seen into play when people are discussing extraterrestrial and discussing UFO sightings, that there are a lot of others that like to jump to the conclusion that it just doesn't exist, it's not real, and claim you have a mental illness. How do you deal with that?
I've changed my perspective of that, how to deal with that over the years. At first, I wanted to be like, you're wrong, I'm going to prove you right. And, because you take it as a personal attack, and you approach it wrongly, basically, just because you feel threatened yourself, and that's not the way to approach anything.
Right.
But when you look at it and step back and go, I don't care if you believe. I'm not saying this for you. I'm saying it for that one person that needs to hear me.
That's
I don't
right.
care
That's right.
if I got 600 people in front of me. If one person hears me and goes, yes, that's what I needed to hear.
You're good. You're in the right place. Yeah. That's exactly how I would feel about it too. The other thing, I lost track of what I was going to ask. I might circle back on that. But you did mention something very important, and a very important history for not just New Hampshire, but for New England, is the Betty and Barney Hill story. We're going to have a lot of viewers in New Hampshire on my podcast for sure, but there are also viewers around the world. Do you want to touch on that a little bit and just let us know what that was about?
Yeah, so basically, I'll give you the real short version, but basically it's 1961. They're an interracial couple. This is still not widely accepted, not even up here in New Hampshire,
Right.
So for them to come out and make an outlandish story like this, it's another one of those like real facts of the case that just make it so easy to believe and so hard to imagine that they draw more attention to themselves. But they're an interracial couple. They got married. They never really got a honeymoon, so they finally got a chance and went up to Niagara Falls for the weekend. And a lot of people think the story starts in New Hampshire at the Mount Cleveland picnic area where they stop to let the dog go out to pee and Betty sees something with the binoculars. But if you really look at the story, they're in a little diner before that, and Barney starts getting anxious, and he's blaming it on this. He's calling it on racial tensions and this and that. And Betty said, no, that was not the case. He was just getting anxiety out of the blue. Like it was just something was affecting him, but the reason he was giving as the cause wasn't the cause. And we find that a lot with abductees. Look, we find a lot of what they went through to be like part of a general abduction experience. But so, yeah, he just started getting agitated, like they're out to get me, and he blamed it on him being black and most of the diner was white. Before they even saw the thing in the sky, they get in, this thing follows them. They hear a beep, and like what they really experienced was missing time, because they didn't realize they had an abduction. Barney ended up having an ulcer that was killing him. It was literally eating his stomach alive. And the doctors were like, well, maybe if we can like get you into hypnosis, you can stop worrying about this missing time. You can just figure out you had road hypnosis or whatever. Nobody was looking for aliens.
Right.
That you can calm yourself down and like we can get through this type thing. And then when they got him into the hypnosis, that came out, and then they did the separate with Betty, and that's when it became a story.
Interesting. Huh.
But
Thank you for giving me your insight on that. I've read about it, but I haven't actually heard somebody talk about it that is into this field, so that's quite interesting. And being from New England myself, I can understand all of that. Wow, what I was going to say is in regards to the concept that some people don't see or understand, that there are people out there that have experiences and not, mental, is the fact that we are just a very small little piece of rock in this very, very large universe that is one of very many other universes. And I think, my personal opinion, without necessarily having any great stories like you do, is that to think that we're the only ones is crazy to me. That was my draw a blank comment that I wanted to make. So
yeah, well, I don't want to cut you off. You had another question, but like for people outside New England, New
yeah.
England is its own little thing. You read some stuff about it, says we're mean and nasty, and some's like, oh no, we're pretty good. Like, we'll give you the shirt off our backs, but you got to tell us why you need it. We don't just tell you stories like this, just
Yeah.
because these come out like, oh, I shouldn't have said that type stuff, for the most part. But we have some of the best stories besides Betty and Barney Hill. We have Exeter in New Hampshire, 1965. We
Right.
have the Allagash abductions up in Maine. We have the Tom Reed's family case in Mass, the Andreessen case out of Massachusetts. Like New Hampshire or New England has some of the best cases worldwide.
Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is some of the landscape, the granite, that there's
Granite,
the crystals within the granite, the quartz.
Yeah.
And I think some of it's, if you only look at New England, you only look at New England. But if you go a little bit farther north, you get the Shag Harbor event. And then you can go right down the coastline, somewhat a little inland. You get the Kecksburg stuff, but all the way down to the Pine Bush stuff, and then all the way down to Florida and the Breeze Gulf stuff. That like the East Coast has always been a hot zone.
Right. And I don't want to turn the page on it. I'm going to mention, honorable mention, Florida, you're wild. That limestone, you're wild. I don't know, is it a valid statement for extraterrestrial paranormal experiences in Florida like it is for Earth paranormal experience? Do you know? Florida's a hot spot.
Yeah, well, and I think it's because you have their peninsula. They have so much water.
Right.
Um,
That was my
and
next
I think that
question.
there's different attractives. Like I just said, yeah, I think the quartz might attract them up here, but plus where the quartz is also usually pretty desolate. You can't get out there unless you're hiking, or you know what I mean. Even
Right.
for as well developed as New England is, there's a lot of remote areas. I mean, if you go to Maine and you're going up to Maine, you better like carry gas cans with you because you ain't gonna see a town.
I was told to stay out of that part of Maine by somebody that is native to there, and he actually had very much to say in regards to extraterrestrial experiences himself. Um, so when you mentioned Maine, I was curious as to I could draw a circle on the state of where I was shown this particular person was talking about, but essentially it's northwest
Yeah,
or
yeah.
north center Maine, and I hear that's just maybe the hot spot or the more dangerous spot. Rather, he spoke about it as if it was terrifying.
Yeah, that part of Maine, but Maine in general is in like one of the top 5 states every year when they go, which state has the most UFO reports? Um, they've had multiple Bigfoot sightings, dogmen stuff. Some of it going back to the late 1800s and stuff. It's one of the few states that has remained almost intact. Not like when you get into like Portland or city areas and stuff, obviously, but when you get into them northern woods, they're about the same as they were. Sorry, New England accent coming out. Back in when we were trying to settle this place, and that's when you get like in New Hampshire, where I'm from, all the wood devils that are kind of basically New Hampshire's version of Bigfoot. And all these things seem to go together, like the ghost sightings, the Bigfoot sightings, and the UFO sightings all seem to happen within areas. Like you could map out a triangle everywhere. It's not like, oh, you're outside the triangle, you ain't going to see a UFO. But you do seem to have hot spots or flaps.
Right. Do you have um so I have a couple things. So backing up on elements, we were discussing obviously the crystal, the granite, limestone, and the water. Water is, in my opinion, one of the strongest conductors of paranormal activity, along with electricity. Um,
Yeah,
that
water is
leaves.
basically nature's electricity, in my opinion.
You're right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's
It's just, yeah, it's the current. Yeah.
yeah, the current, right? So that leaves us with fire and air. Are those elements relevant to extraterrestrial behavior that you see?
Um,
And then the UFOs obviously being spotted in the air.
right. I think yes and no, but on a broader picture, because like if I answer that, I'm going more towards the nukes, like because anytime like they've shut down UFOs, have shut down missile bases, they've shut down. Anytime there's nuclear activity, we now we see it with submarines and the Tic Tacs, and wherever there's nuclear activity, we see UFO activity, and I think that's them like not letting the kids play with matches because we have no idea what that does out into the atmosphere, what it does to other civilizations or things in space.
Oh yeah, that's actually my next question. Is you think they were here before us?
Yeah, I do. I
Right.
actually think we're probably part of them in somehow, some way.
So who are they?
You could ask 1,000 people and get 1,002 answers, I think.
Well, what's your perspective?
I think it's unanswerable because I think we have too much of us versus them mentality. And being humans, we've always been told we're the top of the food chain. We beat the grizzly bear. We beat the, and we've got something that's smarter than us. It might be ahead of us on that food chain, but it's not just an us. There's a multitude of us, and everyone might have a different demeanor, purpose for interacting with us. Kind of like building a house. You don't let the framers do your electric or your plumbing. You hire a plumber. They all have an integral part in our being, I think, or our interactions of where we're going. But I don't know exactly how to quote it or anything. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if you're aware of this. It might be complete, internet bullshit, but it exists, and it always comes back around. There's this interview with a gray, they're saying is a gray, from like the 1980s. Essentially, like, our GOV has them being interrogated. Particularly one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about that?
I personally don't believe it's true, but I believe the message might be, if that makes any sense.
Right.
I know the people who released the footage were a film company. Does that mean that there's not real footage somewhere? Does somebody tweet because that, like, we can't show that, but we could still get the message out? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't believe the actual footage is authentic, but I don't know that it's not based on reality.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree. I've definitely seen it, and I consider sometimes I'm like,
Well, it's captivating. It's a good message.
right, yeah. Sometimes I wonder if things like that are meant to distract or confuse us, or if they are actually things that are leaked. And, just like the rest of the world. There's another concept that's gone around strong in the spiritual community with different types of tribes. It seems like, it sounds like tribes to me. And there's two particular that are pointed out, supposedly doing business here on Earth, and they're at war with each other. Do you recall anything similar to those?
Yeah, and you can get into all the like Galactic Federation stuff and all that.
Yeah.
I do believe, I kind of believe in the theory the Anunnaki planted us here. I don't think we're put here to mine gold, but I do kind of believe in that upbringing, and we are now a like D- science project.
Right.
But yeah, I do kind of like, because all this is spiritual. Because like, even with my abduction, some are negative. I have some PTSD over some of the experiences, but like,
Sorry.
if I had to do it over again, would I? Yeah, because I got to interact with something like so like above me. This is like a 5-year-old meeting a dog. This is the best thing ever. Even though it
Right.
wasn't. Even though you were scared at first.
Right.
And that was not my interpretation from the beginning by any means. But
Right.
I think it all happened for a reason. I think the UFO field, and you're starting to see a lot more people talk about it. You're getting away from the nuts and bolts, because it doesn't
It's
matter.
everywhere.
It doesn't matter if there's a bus. It matters who's driving the bus and why are we on it. And you're
Right.
starting to see this intermingling of ufology with what, spirituality and other things that used to be called woo-woo, because now they can still call us all woo-woo. But
Well, you're
those
right.
of us
Like,
who are in the community are starting to see like real connections. Like, no, this is what it's about.
like Exeter, the police witnessed that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's people actually. So I'm on TikTok because I think TikTok's hilarious. So, anyways, there's like this a lot of people, but there's a particular person, you might know who they are. If anybody who's into paranormal should know who he is. He records the air towers. It's like flight. He's recording the pilots. I can't think of his TikTok now. Why can't I think of it? I have posted. I'll go look, but he's posting the dispatch for the pilots, and his pilots are reporting UFOs. Have you seen that?
I've heard of things like that. I'm not familiar with who you're talking about because I'm just too old to have a TikTok. I'm old and stubborn. I barely figured out Facebook, and that's enough. I'll follow that till it dies, which will be soon.
Yeah. I mean, we could only hope. There's probably, an Instagram for this guy or something too, but there was one. I'm pulling it up right now. He's got somebody in the beginning of this year flying out of Boston who's saying he's flashing lights at him, and then he vanished. He went from left to right, and then he saw another one. So they're essentially kind of on either side of him. It's a guy who's just pretty much posting all of their communications in the air. And I guess if you haven't experienced that, you wouldn't know. But I was curious as to what you might have thought about that. There's a lot. I think one of the most convincing and valid things that I've watched is that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things, like people who they have cognitive distancing. They can't even imagine it's real. They can't even begin to understand that it's possible.
Well, they don't want to. Some
Right,
people are
because their
scared.
upbringing, faith, or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
these same people who, say no, it's absolutely impossible, have never spent an hour out in their driveway at night just doing nothing but looking up.
Right.
You'd be amazed how much stuff moves. Like, it'll keep you entertained. Like, yeah, that's a planet, that's a satellite, that's a plane. You got to learn to differentiate. But
Right.
when it doesn't take much time, you don't have to go to a hot spot. You don't have to pay Stephen Greer, a quarter of your life salary. Just
What are you experiencing? Like, so when you're, sky gazing, right? What are you recently, like, what are you experiencing? What are you seeing?
well, so like usually if I'm just out in the driveway looking up type thing, the last really cool thing I saw was just a light that looked like it hit a home run. It went to first base, second base, third base, and back in. Made like a diamond pie thing in the sky.
Huh.
But this spring, I was out camping in the White Mountains, and I was with my girlfriend, and kind of at the same time, she's trying to get my attention to look at the ground. I'm like, no, I don't care what you're seeing on the ground. You got to look in the sky. Kind of have that little argument until we realized, like,
So she's an earth sign. You're an earth sign. Got it.
And finally realized we were talking about the same thing, but this big light came in, and it was doing shit on the ground. She saw this. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can swear on the ground.
Oh yeah,
on this,
you can.
but
I already did.
and she's watching on the ground. She's seen the ground light up, and I'm watching this big light in the sky just shoot down a beam, like scanning the area. And then once we both got on the same page, we're kind of both scanning both. And then like another 3 or 4 objects came in, these big, just bright lights. And they were scanning the ground. Like the lights would cover 500-600 feet easily, if not more, in a scan. And there were like 4 of them, if not 5 of them. Like, just they were scanning this area, and then they decided they were done. I don't know if they found what they were looking for or what, but they all moved into what we saw was a formation. But when we talked about, we both feel there was a larger craft there that we didn't see, that they all kind of like docked into. But that's our impression. But at any rate, they kind of just moved into a formation and then just kind of flew off.
I'm so amazed by this. I mean, I'm obviously in the paranormal field. This is another area for me. I'm sitting here with my mouth open, like, huh? Like,
Well, yeah,
how?
from
What? What did you do
three and a
though?
half years old to that was the last major thing, which we don't think we're involved in, just witness to, but
Yeah, that's
you
great.
know,
When you're
it,
there,
it,
like with what you just said, what you just experienced with this, you know, coordination of whatever investigation they're doing on the ground there. What were you guys doing? Were you just sitting there staring?
yeah, and then
Were you
they,
like stunned?
yeah, because we weren't expecting it. We were just being goofballs, just camping, just having fun. But yeah,
See,
then we saw this.
I would have put something in the middle. So you don't want me there. See, I would be like, oh wow, let me give them something. I would put like a candle in the middle or something to see what they did with it.
Well,
I'm
and the
sorry.
dogs react, and she's whimpering, and it's like, don't
Oh.
do this. She was actually the strong one. She's had some experiences, but
Now,
not
if the
as many
dog
as
was
me.
there, you gotta watch the animal's reaction from
Yeah.
all
So
different
we're
types of
all like
experiences. Now, the
wondering,
dog
like,
was scared.
are
I
we
would.
next, or yeah?
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Again, this isn't honestly. I find it captivating. I think it's quite interesting. It isn't necessarily something I want to go experience myself. I don't know if that sounds shitty, or I don't mean to sound like that,
No,
but
no, no. It
I
sounds
just
shitty the other way when people are like, I want to be abducted.
yeah,
One,
yeah,
no, you
yeah,
don't.
no, agreed,
Two, if
agreed.
you want it, it's not an abduction.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I mean, and I don't, yeah, that's, again, I've heard stories and different things, and it's hard, you know, to understand the perspective of a person like you and your wife and the experiences that you've had, um, being on the outside. And it does take a certain type of individual, open mind personality, and you need to have some emotional and psychological intelligence to really be able to deal with this shit. And I'm just saying that in all paranormal depths, and this is the depth of the paranormal, by the way, in my opinion. Like, there are people that believe in all different things. So the terminology I'm about to kick is not necessarily my own. But for example, people talk about paranormal, a haunting, a ghost, from grandma to a demon to a poltergeist. In my opinion, when it comes down to all of those terms and terminologies, if you wanted to be worried about something, I'd be worried about this. And I wouldn't be the one to sign up to just go and invite them over for dinner, you know?
Yeah. I don't want to scare the pants off you or nothing, but a lot of what we perceive is from our basis. So if I saw a big light out in the field behind, and then I start having weird stuff happen in my house, I'll be like, oh, it's UFOs. But if you just look at case by case, fact by fact, a lot of hauntings and a lot of abduction stories start the same. Oh, I thought I saw something run through my hall. Something shut a door when nobody was there. Like, I know I put my keys or my glasses there, but then I couldn't find them, and then they were on the, somewhere I'd never put them. Like, we have
Yeah.
to look at the phenomena as a phenomena and stop labeling it and just be like, weird stuff's happening to people.
Yeah. Do you think that so there's a couple questions. I let me back up. I should have wrote down a couple of things, and I don't want to be so sporadic, but I
No,
guess
it's
what
fine.
I'm trying to ask is, do you think there's anything that you do or other people do that invite this visit? Like, is there any correlation where you like doing specific things or in specific areas in a certain mindset? Um, you know, is there
Yeah.
anything that is correlating this
I
to
have
actually
we
occur?
put down intentions and tried to call them in.
Mhm.
And we've had some luck. Um, the biggest one I get, well, we were once doing this in a field, and we had like just this big orb of light, like a little bigger than a basketball. Fucking sorry. Zoom
You don't
in.
have to apologize. This is New England, folks. We swear.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just zoom
Not
in
sorry.
like just above head level. And the other guy, I wish I could take credit for, who was helping run it, was like, on the count of three, everybody yell out what color it was. And we got like three different colors. And like, this isn't trying to remember it from 3 days or a week ago. This is like 3 seconds later. And we got three different answers. So it's like, now we have to look at how this not. It's almost like a medium. A medium see a ghost. And some people have different abilities with that stuff. And so we have to look at it. We almost have to look at it like that. But
it's like a pendulum, but it's not, because they're answering it with colors. Have you cracked the code?
Right. Or it's how that individual person's going to recognize it, not because they don't want him. Some people, maybe they want them to see it scary. Maybe some people, they don't want to do it scary. But we did a big thing up on a mountaintop in Jackson, New Hampshire. We had a recording of star sound. So stars make different noises and stuff. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. So we had
It is so cool. I knew that.
Yeah. So we had a track of that. We would meditate to it. We had a group. We'd all meditate to it daily, or we're supposed to. So, we all missed a day here or there. But then we'd all do it as a group monthly. And then we went up to this mountaintop and did it together. And we were about to give up. It got to be about midnight. We didn't see nothing in the sky. We were tired from hiking up the mountain and all that. And then once the light came into the sky, one of our other investigators was the first one to notice it. But once they noticed it, like, it noticed us, and it started doing like the typical, like a leaf falling teardrop movement in the sky. We had collectively asked it to do a circle. It wasn't a perfect circle, but it made one. But the weirdest thing was
cool.
There was like a plane route. You could see when the planes went by, and when the planes would go by, this thing would dim its light completely, let the plane go by. And then when the plane was out of the sky, it would light back up and start doing stuff again.
That's pretty freaking cool. Hey, just to clarify, could you just close whether or not you were on hallucinogenics before you went up here for the viewers?
Yes, absolutely. We were stone cold sober.
Yeah.
And wishing for something else. Or was at least. But yeah.
But that's what the skeptics are like, when they listen to us talking about things, they're like, oh yeah, they're on drugs, or oh, that's what your mushrooms did. I had somebody comment that to me because I had dreadlocks in, and I'm like, it's so far from it, honey, because I am the most non-toxic person you will meet right now. Well, I don't ever drink even alcohol. I don't do any of that shit. And it was just a really sideways comment.
And it's so dumb too, because even if somebody's down in their luck, drinks every day, living outside, don't got a place to go, do you know who knows that area more than anybody? That guy. He notices everybody because he's looking for something to eat, $1, so he knows the sky too. Even if he's drunk, he's gonna know that something's off.
I mean, I've got a whole paranormal podcast for you in regards to alcohol and spirits, which we could go much further on that. But I do agree that the person that is outside drinking, looking at the sky, is having experiences, many of his own and many that are not of his own as well. And on that note, I am interested in hearing from you. What do you think they want? What's their purpose to be around here, to be seen?
I think it's twofold. One, I do think there's a hybrid program going on. And whether that's because we're going to destroy the Earth, they're destroying their planet, whatever, then that hybrid could be from multiple races. And that's the lesser of my two answers, just for fodder, I guess. The bigger thing is, though, I really think they're trying to bring us up into consciousness. They're trying to raise our consciousness, because that's what it's about.
I agree with that. I can definitely, I can see that. And you're talking about hybrid. I don't know if I'm understanding that completely. Are you suggesting that they're trying to co-create with us?
Yes, but I don't think they're trying. I think they've well succeeded. And that brings me back to what I said earlier, that I think they're kind of part us. Like I can't put a dog and a giraffe in a pen and get a long-necked dog. It just doesn't work that way. So I think if they have this hybrid program, we must be part them somewhere or it wouldn't work.
All right, I
Or
have
the
another.
technology is way beyond anything we can imagine.
Yeah, I can see that too. I have another question. This might be a sticky one, but it's a valid one. What do you consider fact or not in regards to our blood types being relevant to that type of bloodline?
All right, so you're kind of talking about the RH.
That would be correct.
All right, yeah. I think there's some relevance to it, but it doesn't answer the question because you still have experiencers who aren't RH, who aren't, like you can do a study, do more people or more abductees, male or female, left-handed, right-handed, and you get numbers.
Right.
And you can say one side leads, but then what do you do with the other side? It's in it's interesting information, but what do you do with it? Because you don't know what to do with the other part of it. It seems prevalent in some areas, but it doesn't answer the whole question.
So for our viewers, I just want to talk. I'm going to touch on what I just asked because I didn't complete my question. I apologize. Hang in there with me. I was asking about the Rh negative factor in your blood, particularly O negative blood types. Supposedly, O negative blood types cannot be traced to human forms.
They
And
have
there's a
no
lot
idea
of
where it came
research.
from.
Yeah, there's a lot of research out there trying to figure out where it came from. So there's also, because of that, a lot of suggestion that O negative types are of alien or extraterrestrial descent. So I was getting Mike's input on if he sees that being a relevant, staple for his experience. I
Yeah.
do get a lot of feedback from people who are O negative in regards to being on a heightened level of consciousness. Also, I can get a little more technical in regards to the way your body works. And if you didn't know, if you're an O negative type, if you were to get pregnant, so if you have a woman that's O negative and you were to get pregnant with a positive blood type, your body actually is without antigen, and because it doesn't recognize the pregnancy as a baby, your body reacts to it as it's something foreign, and your body will actually kill the pregnancy without having injected antigens to confuse the blood story, which is one of the other parts that makes it really convincing that these blood types are from another world, essentially, another planet.
Right. So I hold monthly meetings for experiencer support groups, and I'll just put a simple number. We'll go 10. Now, 8 out of the 10 people are our age, and the 2 people that aren't just don't know their blood type. So
Fair
it
enough.
turns out very interesting because not only are we just talking about aliens and UFOs and like weird stuff, then like, oh no, for this blood type, like if you're having problems with this, try this diet because this works really well with your. Like we're not just trying to be like, oh, we're weirdos, we believe in UFOs. Like the whole thing is, it's more about it being the human problem. How do you get through it on the human side? And like, so it's so funny to me because I'm one of those people who doesn't know my blood type because I've never had to know, never had the medical stuff or gave them blood where I know. But yeah, everybody else, like, oh yeah, no, most of them are moms, like, oh no, we've had kids, that's how we found out type thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're like, oh no, if you're having this and you have this blood type, follow this diet. I bet that'll fix that right up. And it's just so amazing to me, just for your viewers maybe. Like, because we got told by the Betty and Barney Hill case, like, this is an abduction. And if it doesn't match it, well, it's not an abduction. And if it does match it, well, you're copying. Like, you couldn't win for trying. So I love doing these meetings because we're starting to figure out, like, how wide and what the abduction phenomenon really is, at least on the human side of it.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I do appreciate. I feel like we could probably have a 5 or 6 hour podcast. I can continue talking about this all night. We're down to the last 10 minutes, so I want to get some key information out there to help you out. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I think you gave us a really good snapshot of who you are and exactly where you came from the top. And it's amazing. Like that's a very, scary, must have been very traumatic for you, as I can imagine going through all these things, but you still kind of, you figured out a way to learn from it, respect it, and you've created an entire business to help other people now deal with it. That's pretty badass, to be quite frank.
Thank you. And I'm just going to correct you. Organization, because it's the worst business model in the world. I don't take payment for any of this. I just do this to help people. So yeah. If you look and you go like, oh, there's not a price on that, I bet I can't afford it. No, it's because it's free. Yeah.
For $45.99, we'll diagnose your alien tonight.
Yeah.
Nah, I thank you for correcting me. I definitely think, though, it's really amazing that you were able to come out on the other end and create this organization, and you have been traveling. So tell us a little bit about the events that you've been doing, and what your connections here to the community, because I think that that's quite interesting, especially for people who are local, but not only locals, but those who travel to New England for other special events, to know who you are and what you're about.
Yes. So if you're hearing this and you're in need and local, we do a monthly experiencer group, but we don't really advertise that. Just reach out to me and we'll tell you how to do that in a second. We also used to kind of co-host another meeting in Newmarket. There's more a social event, but for UFO topics. It was based off an old meeting we used to do called Social Sauce. So just come in, talk about UFOs, and then if somebody, what's in the news with UFOs, and then if somebody has some personal stories, we provide a safe space. But you don't necessarily have to be an experiencer to be that. But our previous host just had to step down. So I'm in the process of taking that back over, not taking it back over, but re-hosting that and getting that back going. And we hope to have that going by October. But then, we just got off the Exeter UFO Festival that we do every year. Next year will be the 10th year I've been involved with it. And it's a Kiwanis event. So
nice.
It's really a fundraiser for local children's charities. And it's got a little bit of everything for everybody. It's got some fun and flair. If you just want to take the kids down, get their face painted, make a little UFO out of recyclables, dress your dog up.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we've been down there. It's pretty cool.
Or you can come in and, listen to the speakers if you're really into this stuff. Coming up, I've got a couple sky watches, one at the James House, which is a historic building in Hampton, owned for many years by the James family. So we're going to try a sky watch there. Then we're going to do one at Stonehenge in Salem, New Hampshire, a place they've been monitoring the sky for years. So that ought to be really fun. And then going to be a little light pollution, but we're going to be down in Quincy, Mass, doing one off the deck of the battleship, the USS Salem.
Oh, nice.
as part of their Halloween event. So yeah, we're looking forward to all the events. All of them should be great because even if we don't see anything, we can all get together and just share our stories and just be a community.
Oh, that's awesome. I totally agree. And I do plan to make it to one of the three. And I also actually wanted to touch on something very important. A friend of mine told me that there's actually a book written about you. Is that a
Oh,
fact?
that is a fact.
Let's where you'll hear about it because I'm sure all of the sauce we didn't get to in this hour is in that book.
Not all of it, but a good part of it. The problem with being a lifelong experiencer is there's stuff that happened after the book was written and stuff we didn't add in the book because it just didn't go with the flow of it. But yeah, Nomar Slevik, who's become a good friend of mine. I was helping running a center for weird stuff like this. We'd have speakers come in and tour mediums, UFO, Bigfoot guys, and let them, do their talks. So it was a really cool place, but we just couldn't financially keep up with it. But that's how I met Nomar. And then everybody kept going, Nomar, have you heard Mike's story? And he'd hear a snip and a piece from other people. And he's like, all right, there's a lot of snips, man. I gotta sit you down. Can we do this?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm in the middle of a project, and then I got another project after that. So this might not come out for a bit, but can we? So we finally figured it out, and we did it down. It's called Granite Skies. I know, real creative for my group, Granite Sky, but
It's perfect.
it seemed to work. It seemed to work, and I think we have about 40 experiences in there that I've
Wow.
had that are UFO involved, but we both kind of sat down and thought we'd write the typical UFO book, like, here's my experience, you write it down, he put his little comments on it, and be whatever. But as we went along, it really became about the human story, and I can't do it any justice by talking about it. You do have to read it, and that's not a sales point, just
Oh no, it's definitely. I mean, you can. I want the information on how to get the book because I actually would love to read it.
yeah.
So please make it a point to sell the book to our
I
viewers
yeah
because
yeah
they
yeah
need to they need to find this. This is
you
like
can
40 experiences. That's like I can't even digest that.
Well, we
Like,
left a bunch out, and I'm 45, and
and you're
these
so
started.
humble. Like
Yeah,
I mean, I have met you in person. We didn't get to chat a lot, but I have met you in person, and I was able to, get that energy. You're such a chill person. Like to be having all of these things go on. I think that's awesome. I'm intrigued, so I would love to hear how to find your book.
yeah. You can find it on Amazon. I believe you can find it even at Walmart.com. But if you go to Slevik.store.com, I think you can buy it directly from Nomar, and he'll give you a signed copy. Um,
Nice.
he can't do the free shipping. He's not Amazon, but you can buy it from Amazon, get your free shipping, and then come around to cool events that people like me, Nomar, and you do, and meet us in person. We'll sign them all day long for you.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And finally, I want to make sure that our listeners, if anybody's interested in reaching out to you, for any of the services that you offer, what are they and how can they do that?
Yes, so we're basically pretty simple. It's granitesky.org, and that's what you got to remember, the .org, not .com. Because they want like $12,000 for that website. We're not. No.
It's all good.
And but yeah, that has our Facebook information and our website. Well, that is our website and our contact information, emails, and kind of gives you a rundown of all the services. And if you're like, oh, I need something different, yeah, if it's within line with that, if we can help somebody who's an experiencer, we do it. Even if we didn't list it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
other than that, Facebook is the best way, just Granite Skies, and from there you can find me personally. Just send us a message or an email, and
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you for doing what you do as a fellow, paranormal partner. This
yeah.
stuff's not easy, and
I don't know how your side feels like, but I know a lot of us experiencers feel like we're light workers.
yeah, I actually, so I do a little bit of both, but I do favor my shadow work.
Yeah,
I do
some of my
usually
best
bring
friends
out,
do too. Yeah.
yeah, I usually bring out all the shadow stuff first for those who are seeking information from me. That's a New England thing too. And then you want to top that off with an Italian Scorpio, like you're getting all the business. So, but then we go through, that light work. And as you know, you've met our team. Wolf is a shadow worker, and Melody is a light worker and Reiki master. So we have a nice balance, and I'm really, really happy
Well, and
that I
that's
was.
kind of why I'm at where I'm at with my experiences, because I've done the dark work. Now I can be like, all right, let me help somebody with it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I'm really grateful to both of my team members, both Mel and Wolf, for
I've met them
dragging me
both. They're
out.
both amazing people. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have met you without them and known about you. So I'm really glad that we were able to connect there. And I'm so happy that we were able to connect on my podcast. And I definitely want to invite you back whenever you have some time, because I feel like we could have much
Well,
more.
absolutely, absolutely. We've been going on an hour and 15, and I don't really think I've shared much, but I don't think what
Yeah.
I've shared is, you know what I'm saying.
No, I think it's great, and I think it's given us a great snapshot of who you are and what you do. And for an intro, I think this is perfect. I'm sure we'll come up with a hot topic for the next one. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your night tonight to chat with me. Be so open and transparent with your experiences and story, and just showing up authentically, and being out there with the rest of us, trying to get answers, put in the research, the time, and help people that need it.
Yeah, not everybody's got the right answer, but I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I'm sure they add up quick. It's from one thing, it goes from a hobby to I do this now.
Yeah, I know, right? I
But I've
understand
met like
that.
maybe over that, out of the hundreds, thousands of people, I've met one person who I think clinically has something wrong with them, and I think you could tell from across the street. It's not me judging them. And I have one person I've met who I think they have make a learning disorder. I think they probably had some sightings, but they just want to fit in. And if that guy needs 5 minutes of my time to fit in, like, yeah, I'll talk to anybody. Like, it's about being human. We're all human. The other stuff, well, yeah, it's there too. We'll get to it, but just be nice to each other. That's my final thoughts on.
I agree. I totally agree. So with that, I want to wish you a wonderful evening. And I also want to thank all of our listeners for joining us tonight on this Wicked Wednesday. Stay spooky, and we'll haunt you later.